All right. Yes. So we will be doing mirror work today, and the pictures I have sent you has got different different styles of mirror work. Um, I believe in India there are various cultures where mirror work is used in embroidery. It's not just in one place. Many of the mostly it might be concentrated in Kutch, Gujarat, Rajasthan. That's where the mirror work tradition comes from. I know for sure that in some tribes, some villages, not tribes, in Kutch and Bhuj, they use mirror work on women's blouses. And especially on the bodice part, because there is this tradition that if you wear mirrors, it it's like
Reflects.
nazar, yeah, and it makes a lot of sense. You when there's so much of mirror work on a woman's body, you can't really tell anything. You can't see her form, and it seems to almost protect. And also in a way, it's wearing mirrors, I think, uh, repels the evil eye or something like that. There's a lot of interesting reasons for the mirror work. I just love that it brings a little bit of bling without having to resort to gold or silver, precious metals, and it's always very attractive, very shiny. So we did study embroidery with mirrors, and it's one of the nicest ways of adding something three-dimensional onto a surface. You can use that technique to add practically anything that has a little bit of girth to it. So the samples that I have shared today are different types. I tried to look for samples which had colors that were more homogeneous, which is very difficult to do. There are lots of samples of Jhadak colors. Here's one sample, but it still works. So along with mirrors, I also wanted to add coins. Coins are also often used in this kind of jewelry. Again, I wouldn't claim that this is just one place or it's all from one region. It could be different embroidery styles, different traditions put together. So it's worthwhile whenever you see a traditional artist to ask them about where it comes from, what their village is, what their community is. So this is one detail that we can make. Here's a nice bag, but the mirrors are mostly just blank. So I wanted to show you how mirrors can be seen in different ways. We can make this bag, but we will have to treat the mirrors differently like I'm going to show you. Here again, you have some kind of metal embellishment on this piece. Very beautiful again. It's so beautifully laden, so rich. I just absolutely love these pieces. I don't know what to do with them. I feel sometimes you can just make a belt or something and wear it with jeans. It will look so nice. Here we have the way mirrors are usually seen. So very nice chain stitch around them and gentle embroideries. This is a beautiful piece. I love the colors in this. The restraint is just, I should just applaud that because embroideries are always very beautiful. But in this, to restrict to such lovely colors. And this is the tradition, all bright colors, which is also great. I love the celebration of colors also. I'm sure this works in many ways to cheer one up. And here again, very good color combination, restricted to a few colors, a few accents here or there. Oh, sorry, this is Nita's. Okay. All right. So, what I want you to see is how the mirrors look like mirrors in this picture. The rendering that I'm going to show you is going to create just a color patch on paper, which will bring to mind mirrors in this context. So what we show as mirrors over here may not be how we show mirrors on a wall, perhaps, or any other kind of reflective surface. So I want you to see how each mirror, there's something different. There's just like a gray patch or a wash or something like that. So I'm going to show you how to make these gray washes, and just it's almost like a placeholder. If in this circle, if you have this gray wash, that means it's a mirror, and that is quantified by the embroidery around it. So we are going to do a bunch of things. First, we will make our regular 4 squares. In that, we are going to create a few other textures. Like, how do we create the texture of these bubbles or the texture of metal? There are certain embroidery stitches that we can also recreate. So we'll do all of that. Today we can make 4 sections over here, or actually maybe we can make 4 sections here. We'll make one section over here, which will have, don't put a border. We will just do little samples of things like a little sample of the mirror, sample of the coin, a sample of the bauble. We don't need too much space for that. And this space we can leave vacant for a piece like the bag that I've shared with you, or that little jhumar with those felt balls or something like that. So we'll keep this to illustrate the artifact. And in these 4 boxes, we will pick certain patches which we can recreate, which will have mirror work and the different combinations that we see. So again, I'll go over the instructions one more time. Always try to work from the center outward. Visualize your measurements beforehand. In order to come to the center, you can do something like this. Just keep your hands on the side of the book and bring your thumbs together. If you see that the shape is more or less the same, that means that you are in the center. Just mark a dot here. You don't need to make the dot too dark. Remember, only you have to see it from a distance of about 15 or 20 centimeters. Now, from this dot, you can use a pencil to check whether you indeed have marked it accurately. Yeah, it's pretty accurate. Then from this point, you can mark a center or the center gap between 2 boxes and create a box here and here. If you feel the need to, you can keep some extra space on either side, on which we can then write color swatches and any other details we want to make. Don't make your boxes too large also. So they can be about 2 or 3 inches, no more than that. When you're making vertical lines, try holding your pencil horizontal like this. And when you're making horizontal lines, try holding your pencil vertical, perpendicular to the line in both cases. If you're unsure of your lines, turn the book around and draw the line in the most comfortable position. So I can always do this and draw my horizontal lines are often more comfortable. And turn the book around and then draw another horizontal line, whatever works. This one is not an exercise from pencil yoga. So make it as convenient as you want. Then the gap between the 2 rows also should be about the same. These initial lines that you can make numerous lines. The first place where your eye will check for uniformity will be in the center. It will not be able to see whether the boxes are the same size. The second place it will notice will be the gaps you leave from the top and the bottom. So as you can see from the bottom, it's a little smaller than the top, but it will not be able to, my eye will not be able to tell when my boxes are the same size or not. So take your time in creating this box. I'm going to reduce the size of my box from the bottom. Now in this vacant blank space, we will make some samples, and space below you can make maybe a larger piece. Okay, so let me show you how to make the mirror work first. We start off with, I would like you all to all just observe first and then draw. So don't draw with me. You can keep your pencils down so that you can see what I'm going to do. Since how I work the brush also is important. So I'm making a small circle, and then I'm going to make another concentric circle around it. This concentric circle can be a little wobbly because this is going to be the stitching. I have made a color in my palette, which is like a gray color. This gray you can make using the usual burnt umber. Don't make it right now. I will tell you the colors again. I just want you to see this. Burnt umber, cobalt blue or ultramarine blue or both. So you get this blue brown shade, and then you add black to that. So you get a deep black color. This color, then you can wipe your brush, wash it, and then take just very little bit of that. And we're going to do two things. So first is, I'm going to take very little, very watery color. So my brush has this paint as well, but it also has a lot of water. So I took a little bit of paint and then I dipped it in water just to add more hydration. And then I'm going to press my brush down while I turn my brush along the side like this. I don't have to get a clear shape, any shape. But in the place where I press down, you can see that there's a very little color. There's a very little color that appears. I can do the same thing on the other side, but this is an option. Then I'm wiping the brush. I wiped it, and just with a damp brush, I'm going along the sides just a little bit. Now this is looking a little reddish. So as it dries, I'm going to make a second layer of a very light cobalt blue. And these colors can mix, it's okay. This will just be a little bluish shade. And I will repeat the process. Maybe not from the same place. So what you get are these unpredictable shadows. And once we do the embroidery around it, it is going to look like, one second, I have some finished pieces, so you know how it's going to look like this. So just the washes make no sense, but in the context of the embroidery around it, they do the work. All the shapes are different. And that's also important because this is not going to be one kind of glass. If you've seen this embroidery, you'll notice that it's often very cheap glass or reflective material. So there are going to be some errors in the polishing, and that is what makes it almost look like it's got more shine than it should have. So remember, the color is very, very light and very watery, and you must press the brush as you go down. Now, in the event that you don't press the brush because you don't know how much to press, let's see what options we have. So I'm taking a whole lot of paint. As I have shown you, it's liquid. And now I'm going to make a stroke with very little pressure. So you probably will be able to make something like this. This won't be too difficult. If this happens, this is too much paint and this is just going to dry up and leave a bubble. So you can wash and wipe the brush and use the same brush and just smooth the edge out. So here you can press the brush down and remove the paint from along the edge and then press that remainder color into that space again. Once this dries, you can repeat the same thing with a little bit of blue. Now, in this case, if you're unsure about how much you need, after you've taken the paint in your brush, dab on your rag and use the residual color. Dab and use that. There is a lot of paint in our brushes. So even if you get this is fine to start with. Keep it in a separate place so you can test out different color consistencies and also pigment ratios. So I'll wait for a bit till you all try this, and then we will move on to the next part. So I'll just keep this in front of you as well, so you can see how many options we have. And in the meantime, I'm going to correct the spelling of embroidery. All right. Are you getting it? Yes, that's good. Nice. Now, after this is done, just take any color. Use a thin brush now, like a number 0 or 1. And we are going to make the embroidery around this. So I'm using scarlet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a slightly bumpy line around this. So it's not, it's like I'm doing this up and down action as I make this circle. So I don't get a smooth circle on both sides. So even that concentric circle can be like that. It does not have to be a very smooth circle, because otherwise we won't be able to show the ridges of the embroidery thread. So you don't have to do a scallop shape. Just move your brush up and down in an unpredictable shiver. And then you can just make a ladder-like design running through and through. So this is going to be the most common design where you can embroider along the edge and make a nice thin border of what's like a blanket stitch around this. And for the second one, you can make there is one instance where they have a chain stitch, and I've never done this myself before, I think. This must be very difficult to do. So we just make a teardrop chain around the mirror.
Hi Aditi, good morning,
Hi, Sonal.
everyone.
Were you late, Sonal, or were you joining at 11:30?
Uh, oh, sorry, I got confused. We
Oh,
start 30, right?
we
The group.
started 11.
Okay, yeah, I just read the timings on the group description and it said 11:30.
I'm so sorry. It's my mistake. Then I need to change that. So when we were starting, I put that on the group that we are starting now. But you're right. It's my mistake. I should change it and make it 11 to 12:30.
No problem. Yeah. Okay. So,
Okay. So we are doing mirror work today. So I just want to, I'll show you once again how I made this.
yes.
Yeah, so I'll first show you how the page has been distributed. We made 4 squares like last time on the slightly on the left side, but there's about 2 finger space on the top and the bottom and the side. And then in the extra space here, we're going to do trial stuff and then bring it into the design.
Okay.
So in order to make this, you don't need to make it. I just want you to see it so that then later on you can watch this part of the video and you can try it out also. There's ample opportunity to make it here, so you might not even need to do that. So you start off with a circle, and in that I have used a gray color, which is a mix of blue, that's cobalt blue or ultramarine blue, burnt umber, and black. And you get this kind of a grayish shade. So sometimes it'll look brownish gray, sometimes it'll look bluish gray, sometimes it'll look blackish gray. So you take very little amount of this color and very watery too, and make a stroke like this where you are just pressing the brush down along the edge of the circle. And you can scruff up the line a little bit by using just the removing the paint from the brush and using the residual paint to create this texture. After this dries, or as it comes to dry, you can also add another layer of blue to this. So do the same thing and always keep the colors very dry. So when they when they dry up on the paper, they will become a little lighter and they'll show this almost imperceptible texture, which is all we need to see it as a mirror surface. And then all we've done is made a very rough line on the inside and outside of this circle in a concentric manner and joined it with a ladder like stitch. And on this side, just joining one teardrop to another to make a chain stitch along. So I'll be showing this again on the sheet over here. And as and when, if you want, if you get some time in the middle, if you want to practice it, go ahead and do that. Do you want to make this and then I can continue?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, fine.
I'll just give you a couple of minutes to catch up. All right. So while Sonal is drawing the squares, let me just show everyone else what we can do. So in any piece like this, either you can illustrate this whole piece or look for a small motif that you can recreate. Many of these motifs are floral shapes and they have multiple rows of multiple stitches. So in order to make the embroidery look more authentic, it really helps that you zoom in and see what those stitches are all about. It can be easy to just color everything in just one patch and let it go. And we are going to do that in a few places. But as you can see, there's a very nice elaborate stitch that has been made in this shape. If you can make that, then your embroidery will look that much more authentic. So what we can do is select maybe one of these, like a square motif. Let me just make it for you. You're free to choose whichever motif you want out of this, as big as you want it. Something like this, or something like this, or just this part, wherever we have those mirrors. So I think I would like to choose a part like maybe, yeah, this big, because we have a square. And I'll save this and share it with you so we can use it as reference. Right. So this is our shape. If it's too complicated, reduce it. We can just make the center motif, that's also enough. So here, start from the bottom. You can make a line for the black stitching on the bottom here. Then we can make half, 1, 2, 3, 4 and half. So you can make circles. Leave some room for the circles. Don't make them too big. 1, 2, 3, 4 and half. Then we have a line above it. Now, I may or may not be able to fit the whole motif. Let's see. Between these two,
Aditi, can you spotlight your drawing?
oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. So as you start drawing, you'll start seeing how your space is working for you. So feel free to make adjustments, especially when drawing in pencil. That's the whole idea of drawing in pencil. And then draw the dark lines. Don't bother drawing the white line in between. Between these two mirrors is the central motif. And then from there we have a spear shape going up. Little spear going to the side. So these are all the internal shapes. And then you'll notice how there's a line that goes around it from the bottom, goes all the way around, comes here, almost to the bottom, but not entirely. And then these two are fused. So there isn't any gap between these two outlines. Now, whenever you're drawing this, remember to draw as lightly as you can. So you should not feel the need to erase. With each line you draw, you'll get a clue where the next line is going to come. Like in this case, we have semicircle created here, which encircles another mirror. But that mirror is not in isolation. It has got two rings of embroidery around it, or at least one fat ring. So in all of these, the less you try to be accurate, the better your designs will look. The more you try to keep these distances alike or the shapes are identical, the more mechanical and unrealistic it would look. And that's this great news for us. All right. Is everyone done with the drawing or do you need a minute? So if you're done with the drawing, in all these places where you have mirrors, first we will make the mirror texture like this. A bit blurred. Could you adjust it? So this is how I'm doing the multiple mirrors. Obviously, you can't do all of them identical. So you can change the direction of the brush. In some places, it will be in one direction, in some places in another direction. I've not bothered to erase the lines, but it makes, once you are painting on top of it, the line becomes indelible. So if you want to erase the lines before you start painting. Now, while this is drying, I can show you how to paint the coins. So again, the coins have a certain structure. They have a circle and they have some loops around them. The loops are soldered on top of the coins, I think. So here we need to make a coin that has smooth edges, unlike what we drew over here. And then from the top, you will draw two lines like this. Just 1 second. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so we have to make these two loops. Now, if we just make these two rectangles like this, they don't look like they're three-dimensional. So I'm going to show you how to make a three-dimensional design also. Now, in this case, you can use the pencil to actually make a texture inside. So you can draw a slight designed line, just like a dashed line or something, which looks like the embossed design on the coins. If you look at the first picture I've sent of that bag with the toggles, you will see that there is an old 1 rupee coin, 50 paise coin. You will notice that there are certain shapes in it, like we have the three-headed lion. So you don't draw the entire thing, you just draw a few dotted lines, a few dots in the right place. You can also write Bharat by just writing a few shapes like this and India. It's amazing how our eyes can still see this because the coin is familiar to us. You don't need to draw anything more. So we take advantage of the fact that the pencil lead we use becomes indelible once we color it up. So we are going to use the same technique as the mirror, but this time round, we will make it a little more, I guess, structured. So if you can just keep your pencils down for a minute, I'll show you how to do this part. So make a little edge throughout, but not continuous. It can be broken, but it has to be inside that circle. You can make a little shadow like we did for the mirror on top, and then make a shadow going through the coin, and then stopping at a few places like this, like just on the inside of the inside circle. And you wait for this to dry. On the top, you will make a little extra layer over here, which will make it look like the loop has got a little depression just on that side. Now this is layer 1 and it can remain like that, or we can add a second layer, so then you can add a little depth also, just in a few places. So this is like nerd level, but it does make a big difference. The color I'm using is still the same, but the consistency in the second layer is slightly less watery. And I want you to see how I use the color. This is the shade we made. I used the same thing. I did not make any more color. And then I'm using whatever is dried up on the edge. Some places it'll also merge with a little bit of blue, and that's fine. Because in metal, often you see more than one color. You don't just see one color. So you take advantage of all these things. The fact that our watercolor blends very easily, it flows very easily, it wants to flow, and keep that as an advantage for the illustration. Now, when I'm painting this on, while I'm showing this to you, I have one window open where I'm looking at the coin. So this is not, I'm not imagining this at all. And here I will now add a few more details. Because the design is embossed, the letters are embossed, it'll become darker in a few areas and lighter in a few areas. And this will start looking like a coin. And then, of course, we can add more beads to it and whatnot, and then make that whole, it works the same way. You will make a silver bead exactly like this, where you will get the same kind of coloring from the sides, the top and the bottom. And it'll look like silver. All right, do you want to give it a shot? Just let me know when you are done so then I can proceed to the rest. The same color can also be used for the mirror for the next layer. Since we are here, I'll just show you. Just run a slight shadow-like stroke on half the inside part of the circle, very close to the edge. You don't have to see it, you just have to perceive it. So very close to the edge, leave no gaps between this and the thread color. So you create depth. At any point when you have to show roundness or cylinder-like shape, you always put a highlight on one side. It can be in the middle, it can be a little to the top, bottom, right, left, wherever, and a shadow on the opposite side. And that generally does the trick. So this is a bead, but later on we are going to make threads also. So in some places where the threads are thick, you can use the same technique, but with a certain texture and make the thread look like it is a thick thread in a particular color made out of some kind of material like silk maybe, which also is reflective. Shall we proceed? Okay. Now we'll come back to this embroidery. And in this case now, if you want to do a quick rendering, oh my God, I've forgotten the central mirror completely. So if you want to do a quick rendering of this, you can use just a color matching technique and first fill up as a base coat all the shapes that we have made. That'll just make life a little easier for all of us. So yeah. Since the colors are fairly light, use an eraser to just go over the lines, roll it over so that they become lighter. Leave them a little dark so that you can see them after we've applied color. If you make them very light, then you may not be able to see them properly. Now it's just a matter of color matching. So the first color I'm putting in is this lightest color here, which is a cream, yellowish creamish color. I have a puddle already made from gamboge and gamboge and yellow ochre. So I make it very light, very watery. Whenever we have pastel colors, we don't use white as far as possible. You can just make a very watery shade and use it. So this one is fairly dark right now, but it will become fairly light. So I'm just painting it flat. I'm not making those stitches. You could paint it along the edge and leave a little shine in the center if you want to make it look like there's some three-dimensionality to the threads. Or you could just paint it through also, not a problem. The area around the mirror is going to get a black stitch, so we can leave that part, or we can go over the cream part as well. It's a very thin stitch. Similarly, we can use gamboge and orange, a mix of gamboge and orange for the next stitches, which are over here. So very little gamboge, very little orange in gamboge to just make the color a little brighter. Now here there is definitely a shine, so I want to keep a little part unpainted like this. And I'll do the same thing over here. I'll paint from the sides of that section and leave a little space in the middle unpainted. So again, don't keep it exactly the same on the left and the right. And here as well. Left here, very tiny space or no space at all is fine. Then from the top, I haven't drawn that part, but I can see it clearly now, so I'll draw it. I'll paint it at least. Now we can add a little more orange to the same color. and do the same here. So I am painting the entire embroidery part flat for all of these. The next is the light yellow color that we used over here. Oops, that's pink. This is the light yellow. And then there's a pink color on these two. Now, if something like this happens, don't bother blotting it and trying to remove it. I should be putting a pink here. If it is really dark in the grand scheme of things, if you make all of this yellow also, it really is not going to be too different. And then wait till the first color dries before you add a second color. It'll go much easily. This color that I've used is, I just had a crimson ready, just closer to that shade, but I'm thinking now the crimson with the scarlet would look better. So for the bigger circles, I'm doing that. Now there are these white dots on some parts of the embroidery. For the moment, just ignore them. Now there is this thing, negative painting that we have to do. So see this, there is a loop and a stitch that goes around these mirrors. It's a very thin stitch. So you take it around and then make a loop. If you have space, then put a teardrop shape within the loop also. If you've drawn a very tiny box and you don't have space, then just a simple loop would be fine. For the negative painting, we literally have to paint just the outside of that shape. And this again, I will be doing with a very light mix of crimson, and there has been scarlet in this before. So very light and watery. Now, the danger in this case is that light and watery can make the color dull as well. I prefer the dull color than mixing it with white. But I'm not going to stop you if you feel you want to mix it with white and make it a lighter shade. And I'm really going to paint around these. This is the natural fabric underneath all the embroidery, the original fabric color. Since the stitches around the white part are in a deeper color, it's okay if you paint a little into that territory as well. So this topic is excellent if you want to make a journal. You could use a 40-page or a 50-page journal, and every day look for some kind of embroidery design that you can repeat. And like we are making these motifs right now, you can make exactly the same thing in a smaller size, or in the same size, or even a bigger size if you want, on one whole page. And if you find the source of the embroidery, you can actually document that part as well. I'm using a number 2 brush for this, and my paint is very light and very liquid. So if your colors are looking dull or if they're looking patchy, a bunch of things could be happening. One is that maybe you don't have adequate medium and it keeps drying and you keep going back. Maybe you're painting a little slower than you should be, which over time will change. It could also be that you're not loading the brush sufficiently. So you paint a little bit and then you run out of paint and then you have to go back into it. Sometimes you're loading it too much. So the first part you get a lot of liquid and then the rest you don't get any. So I'll give you solutions from the back. So if you load your brush too much and there's a big blob of color, you can always keep loading your brush from the blob itself than going back into the palette itself. So for example, if now I have to paint in this section, I've put in a very concentrated color and I'm panicking. What am I going to do? I can just spread this color quickly. Instead of going to the palette, or even to the edges of this, I'll just quickly bring it into this field. And as I go, I will continue to fill up more and more spaces. So just spread it out, spread it out. And keep moving the medium forward. If any of you has encountered flooding and has lent a helping hand to somebody to remove that water which is flooding an area, that is what you do. You take a brush and you just push the water. You come back, take some water and push it beyond. There is one motif on the top, which I have room for, so I'll make. It's like a leaf shape. Oh, sorry, in the other direction. Seeing it upside down. If you look at this picture in detail, you will see that we can, in fact, see the print of the original design behind the embroidery. Now here, the leaf structure comes all the way to the top, but I have not made that. So I'm just going to go by my design now. I should have made it bigger. Something has gone wrong, but it's okay. It's not like a nose that's become too long or short. Won't look bad. This fabric is also present behind the red color. I'm ignoring the white dots right now. So I've just made an announcement on the Art from Home group that we are taking the art retreat to Rajasthan this year in November. And if you, there's going to be a lot of embroidery there, I'm sure. So the dates are from the 21st to 26th of November. The only thing is that around that time, the season starts. So we have to decide within a week or so who is coming, and we have to make some advance payments. So if any of you is interested, please join the group. So at least you'll be part of the discussion. Joining the group does not mean that you have to pay or you have to come. It just helps to understand where we are going, uh, what are the costs involved and all of that. And you have a week to think about it and decide whether you are coming. We have about 10, 12 seats max, not more than that. So do check it out. Okay. Now, after this is done, I'm going to show you how to make some stitches. It's as simple as it looks. I have this purple color made using ultramarine blue and crimson. So using a number 2 brush again, I will create some stitches in those spear-like shapes we have in the middle of this embroidery. So as I see it, there's a nice knotting on the side. So I will make some blob-like structure along the edge. I'm using a nice thick paint for this. Huh? Don't make it too watery because otherwise your colors will look very, very dull. So here goes making the blob-like line, a blob full line. And now actually just try to replicate the stitches. In this case, I think it's like a very, very closely stitched herringbone, which is like a very flat V which goes from one side to the other. And even if the line merges, it will look like embroidery. When we come towards the top, here it helps if you have done some embroidery because there will be some clue in how this part was stitched. You will draw the top, you'll draw the middle, and then you can draw the sides going from one side to the other. There. Now around the mirror, there's a blackish greenish color. So I'm making a mix with viridian green and black. And I'm going to make the same kind of texture that we did here for the mirror. So leave a little gap from the edge of the circle. So you have a little cream edge. And inside, once you have this, you can just draw these ladder-like lines. Now, depending upon your patience, you can draw some highlights over here also, but it's just too tedious.
Never thought I'd hear you say that, Aditi. It's never too tedious for you.
What is, sorry?
I said, I never thought I'd hear you say that, too tedious. You do the most tedious things with great affection, like weaving that basket or
Oh, yeah.
stitches.
Yes, that is true. So this is like a halfway solution where if you don't want to do the entire embroidery, you can do a few dark sections of the embroidery because then at least it becomes visible. So like I've done this here, the yellow has no embroidery stitches, but the darker colors, because of the contrast, I've made them into stitches. So you can, it looks like the whole thing is embroidered. But if you feel, you can always go over these, this color also in the same color. Maybe add a little extra burnt, not burnt, yellow ochre and recreate some parts of that. Now, all of this depends on the application. Where will you use this? If you're going to use it as an embellishment for maybe a card, you can just make some of the designs and then leave the rest. You don't have to do everything. If you are going to use it in as an artwork that you will place on your wall or something, then maybe it makes sense to spend time in creating all these details. So there are levels of difficulty that you can choose for yourself. So this is how it can look much more detailed. So basically that's it. That's how you can finish up everything else. Now, there's that little bit of the bobble that they have on the tassels. I wanted to show you how to create that. So let me know when your current task is done, and then I can show you how to create those bubbles. That's a very nice little motif to make, say, bookmarks or something out of. Even this, you can make really nice bookmarks. Imagine a whole row of just mirror work, embroidery. And the best bit is, it will look like embroidery, but inside a book, if there's anyone who's like me, I hate putting any kind of 3D stuff in books because then the pages get bumpy. Imagine the shock of the person who sees this and says, oh my God, all the papers will be ruined. And then they look at it and it's almost like an optical illusion. That'll be so cute. Great delight. I had given a task to my younger classes once. So next month we are doing portraiture, and I'm going to give this task to all of you as well. One part of portraiture is learning to draw eyes. So we draw cartoon eyes first. And then the task given is that you make these pairs of cartoon eyes and you go and stick them on a few items in the kitchen or in the fridge, so that somebody, when they open the fridge, they just see like a bottle of ketchup staring back at them. It is so hilarious. You have to try it. That's the best way I got to get the, I mean, that was how I got the kids to do their homework. They absolutely loved that homework idea.
Aditi, the green, the viridian green you mixed with what?
Black.
Black.
Yeah, let me make these color patches. Acha, if you're making the color patches like this, remember not to make them too close to the artwork. Keep a little distance away from them. All right. What is I going to show you? I'm gonna show you. Bubble. Okay, can I show you that?
Yeah.
This is what we are looking at. These little things. And I found that though they look very cute and all, and you feel, okay, this is just going to be a splash of color, they'll end up looking very two-dimensional. So I'll show you why that happens. So normally when we make this, we tend to mark a circle out or something, and then just paint in the circle. So let's say this is how it is. Or we will actively take a brush and do this. So what
Yeah.
you get is like a burst of lines, and it still does not look three-dimensional. So the flaw over here is in how we look at the object. I'm going to use cerulean blue now for this. So what you do actually is, if the circle is meant to be the boundary of that bubble, paint a little bit on the inside. Keep a lot of liquid in it, and then using either a thin brush or the point of a big brush, spread out some of this color like this. Just the edges, spread them out, but not in lines. Don't draw lines out. It's like pulling out the color in a few places so that you don't have a smooth edge. So we're not making lines here. We're just pulling out the color. If you make lines, this will start looking very flat again. So it's just spreading out the edge. Now we need to let this dry a little bit, and then we have to repeat the process with a slightly deeper color to get that 3 dimension. Are you getting it? Should be okay. So while the first one is drying, I'll make a second one with two colors. So here we have just one single color that's been spread out. Now we can do one which has two colors. So you can make a circle with a light color first. And in one section of that circle, you add a little bit of the dark color. So you start getting a shadow even before the color dries. And then use the same technique to push and pull the color in the right direction. So you have the lighter color towards the outside on the right, top right, and you have this slightly deeper color on the bottom left. Keep your hand very light. Otherwise, as you spread this out, this will start becoming a bigger and bigger and bigger blob. So before I forget, this Saturday we had done a very nice class on Japanese art. I will share that picture with you. Not art, prints, patterns like these. And it was wonderful. So I'm going to share that video also, and I'll share the artwork also. If you have time during the week, please watch that. It's very geometric and very easy. Let me see if I have a sample here. Yes. So we took 6 different Japanese patterns and we made these. They're very simple. It's a great exercise in brush control, dividing spaces, and even composition. So do try this out.
This is very
Beautiful, very nice. And
Thank
a
you.
lot of these patterns have now been incorporated in the Jaipur blue, what do they call it? Um, the prints that they make with the blue.
Yeah, it's very possible because these are
They, you know, this wave-like thing at the bottom, and
right. So
my goodness,
all
beautiful.
these
Each
patterns,
one has a name.
yes, they have a name and they have a meaning as well.
So
So
tell us the meanings.
well, so this one is meant to be the 7 treasures of Buddhism. This
Okay.
is meant to signify bravery because these look like
Arrows.
feathers behind
Yes, 7 arrows.
this is these are supposed to be fish scales, triangular repetition patterns, fish scales. This is definitely the wave. This is basket weaving,
Yeah.
and this is hemp leaves.
Oh my goodness.
Such beautiful graphics. So do watch this, huh? And of course, if you watch it, please leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, spread it around. All these videos are free to watch. So if you have friends who are interested, please share and please ask them also to subscribe.
So this is on Insta or it's a
No,
YouTube?
it's on YouTube, where we
YouTube.
have our other recordings.
Oh,
All the class recordings are on YouTube. So I will share this one with you and then you can see all the others also. Okay, now to make this look more three-dimensional, you can apply the same color. Now I'm doing this when it's dry. You can also throw in the color when it's wet. So apply a little bit of a dark color in a crescent shape towards the bottom. And using a thin brush again, spread it out just a little bit. This time it can overlap some of the earlier lines. It need not go all the way to the end. And only on the inside, instead of making just lines, you can actually make dots. Spread
mm.
it out as dots, not as lines, because this is the center of the bobble and all the threads that our
Yeah, looking
merging
at you.
out will be coming towards you. So we need to create a foreshortened effect. So if you draw lines again, that will look flat. But if you draw dots and pull this color to the bottom and draw these lines, this will work perfectly.
Did you figure this out yourself?
Yes. Everything I think I figured out myself. Just trial and error, trial and error. But more importantly, I have come across something like this when as a mistake. And then I have applied it in the right place and it's no longer a mistake. So I realized that most of the things that we think are mistakes are just inappropriate at that time, but they are useful.
So
yeah.
what do we do in the other squares
The
while
other
we are
squares,
doing?
you can pick and choose other pieces of the embroidery. And again, I will share a video. I think I had some process videos, time-lapse videos of the embroidery patterns that I've made and I showed you earlier. So
Yes.
you can at
Or
least
maybe just a photograph of that on a group would be really helpful. Then we can kind of copy those at least, something like that.
that as well. And in that class, we had painted cowries. So I can
Aha, that was very interesting. I saw that.
yeah.
You managed to finish such a lot in that class?
No,
Oh, okay.
we barely finished one, exactly like how much we finished here.
Okay.
The
I
remaining
thought
four,
they're really, I mean, way, way fast.
no, the remaining
Trucking
is
away.
just ambition. Then I sat on Sunday and I painted because since I have to put up the video, I don't
Yes.
like to put up half done pages. So I sit and listen to some nice podcast and I finish it one brush stroke at a time.
So can you just put that thing up? I want to see where you put the title of your embroidery, where you corrected
Uh,
that page.
so this one, there was room. That's
Oh,
why
on the side. Okay.
fine.
Okay. Oh,
But we might
nice.
not have room on our,
No,
so forget it. You don't have to put it.
we'll put it on top or something.
No, if there is
No,
no room, don't force it.
no. Okay.
It's not necessary because it'll screw up the entire composition. If somebody who sees it doesn't realize it's embroidery,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Then it's a failure anyway. Might as well not may put a title to it
It
if
could
they
be
can't
their
make
failure as well. So you can let it pass off as just an artwork with texture or something like that.
Okay, have a look at my coin and my bauble.
Yes, let me see.
The coin is not too great, but I think the bauble method is wonderful.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, see, maybe it will come
So
out.
the coin also
But
is
this,
getting there. If
yeah, it's a
the
little
first
dark.
coin you've done, then of course
Yeah,
you need to just make those adjustments. So
yeah.
that's okay. That's not a big deal.
Bauble is very good. Very good. It's really looking 3D now.
Yeah. So yeah, some more announcements. Now, a bunch of things happening. Other than the retreat, Susan is starting a batch also, and that is going to be on Thursdays from 2:30 to 4, Thursday afternoons. So again, I need your help to spread the word. I will be sharing an ad about that class. And that is also going to be interchangeable. So if some days you can't make it on a Tuesday morning, you can attend the Thursday batch as well. She's going to have completely different topics from mine. So you can also join her batch as an additional batch so that you can get 2 batches through the week. This way you have variety as well. So I'll be sharing that. And also for the retreat, the art retreat, since it's a little bit urgent, if you can spread the word. So now if there are people who would like to join just the art retreat and they're not members of the class, that's fine too. We have a couple of months during which time they can just join the travel batch so I can bring them up to speed. The travel batch is on Saturdays from 3 to 5. So they can attend for a couple of months or even 1 month before. So they know what to expect and then they can come for the 5-day art retreat. So it's open to all. The more people it spreads out to, then we get more people. And since it's happening in Jaipur, if you have people who are in Jaipur who would like to attend some activities, we are planning on doing at least a couple of day workshops for people in Jaipur. So if you know of someone, just ask around. If there is enough interest, then we will schedule it. We'll look for locations. Okay, all right. Next month, we are going to start portraiture. So don't be scared. We will be starting it slow. We'll start with just basic features, small abstract portraits, and then I will start you off on how to at least draw certain features in portraiture. So it's really, this is one topic which helps you to gauge where you are in your sketching skills, in your observation skills, and in your rendering skills. So it's not, portraiture is not something that you practice because you want to make portraits. It's a test once in a while to see how far you have come from day one, how your observation is working, and how your hand is moving. Once you have that in mind, then you know where you need to improve. So everything else, all that we are doing right now is geared towards portraiture. So once in a year, I do this module so that you know how to assess yourselves. Okay, all right. So that's it then. Please try and finish the remaining as many as you can. Do a little bit once in a while, but even if you sit for about half an hour every day, it will help you to practice this more and more and get better. And I will see you next week. Bye.
Yes. Next Tuesday, I may not be there, but I'll